So this is a little bit different type of food deck than the last one we played. Um, this is a much lower to the ground. It's not as combo-esque. It's more of a mid-range aggro deck with a decent amount more card draw. And we don't have the collected companies here. Instead, we have some pretty nice removal in a suite that includes Fatal Push, Meat Herc Massacre, because this card is actually kind of nuts, and Mortality Spear, because Mortality Spear we pretty much always get to cast it for 2. Now, this deck list has a couple of fun ofs because I think Academic Awakening can be very good in these decks in some spots, so one of is a good thought. And then I've got this one Find Finality over here. I'm not sure if it's appropriate. Maybe I should have a third Cursebound Witch. But Cursebound Witch is only sometimes really good, and this version of the deck tends to loop things with Lurrus a lot if he lives. And I thought that having at least one way to get our Lurrus back would be a good idea, besides the Agademes. So, let's launch game. Hope it goes better than the last one. This is actually a very bog standard hand for this deck, but we've got a cat, an oven, a Thoughtseize, and a goose. All great, and then we've got a Deadly Dispute if things start to go wrong and we need some other cards. Start with Fast Land because eventually it goes wrong. And in this particular spot, I'm going to start with a goose because it's a little harder to remove the cat, and we can go oven with the cat next turn and have protection for our cat. And I'm not a huge fan of emotes, so I'm just going to mute that guy. Alright, so we're going to drop oven first, and then the cat. And we're going to pass here, even though we could Thoughtseize them, because I'd like a tiny bit more information. And having our food is a good thing. It is good practice to always use your oven to eat your cat and bring it back at times whenever they don't have mana available to disrupt you. We're going to start with Thoughtseize for information. Alright, so they've got plenty of land, so we don't exactly care about this. It looks like what they're doing is fighting things with Death Touch here. They could be a Phyrexian Obliterator deck. But we are going to take the Planeswalker because obviously it's the most valuable card here, and we don't exactly care if they try to fight any of our stuff. So here, we're going to pay the 2 life and drop a Trail of Crumbs. I'm actually gonna attack with the cat here just to get them to block, but we're gonna deny the life with the Witch's Oven. We can't use the cat to get a card draw off of Trail of Crumbs this turn, but we can use mana from the Goose to do so. So we're just gonna be a little patient. Especially because they're probably gonna try to fight our Goose. We are obviously not blocking. Now, interestingly, Cat is one of the arena edited cards, so that there's no block. So, interestingly, if this attacks me, I can let them draw a card, but we are most likely not doing that. And we're going to go ahead and eat food for this effect here. Meat Hook Massacre is more valuable than the land at this point, even though we really want to cast quite a bit of mana. So we will need that land eventually. Currently, we've got an extra food, so I'm going to go ahead and eat a cat. I'm going to draw 2 cards to get the treasure token. And since we have Revolt active, this can remove this Shakedown Heavy here. So let's go ahead and do that. That is probably the biggest creature in his deck at this point. We're gonna sack our food to bring our cat back, and we're gonna use the treasure to draw a card and hope to find a land. No land, but second goose is available. And we just passed the turn. I think you can kind of see what I mean by this is a little bit different than the other deck. The other deck wants to use Mayhem Devils and stuff to go off and kill as much stuff as possible. We're gonna goose to deny them. Now, unfortunately, we're gonna have a little bit of an issue, like actually getting through their stuff, their life gain from this thing. But we also don't have much of a way to do things. I missed a point of damage there, but the card draw is the important thing. We are hunting from it. Got a land, it's a tap land, but it comes with a button. Now, right here, we want to try to deploy the priest. They're gonna obviously kill it with their fight spell. But if they don't fight it, they're in big trouble, so they kind of got to do this. And this theoretically grants them resources that could later kill our Luris, and our Luris is way more valuable. I'm not sure what on earth they're using Nicholas. Okay, now this card is gonna make things go a little nuts. We're gonna start by attacking first, so we don't miss damage like that. So Ravenous Squirrel serves our big threat role. This deck is kind of like their 6/4 guy. Only it also massively synergizes with the food strategy because the cat is a creature and the food is an artifact. So we get to kind of sort of double dip on getting stuff. Now, right here, I'm actually going to go ahead and put Luris into my hand and hope that they're not going to Thoughtseize. Because the squirrel's big enough to trade with the vampire. And that'll leave us in an extremely advantageous board state because we can slam Luris, bring back the squirrel after ridding them of their only threat. We're down in the trade. We're gonna attack first. We get to Luris. And we get to Squirrel. And hold up one land to draw a card off of our Trail of Crumbs. We're not using Agdeems as a land right now because it might be super useful at 6, and we're already on 5. So they realize they're not in a great spot right now. We're absolutely all cylinders rolling it. Priest means that any single threat they play is moot, even though we already had one in the yard. Crash in for 7. Start them to just dying here. We always want to use at least one Luris. And we're going to roll out a second Trail of Crumbs, even though we can't fully take advantage of it due to not having 2 mana open this turn. So they're going to Thoughtseize us. There's nothing in our hand that they can take that's really going to stop us here, and they are imminently dead. Yeah, that doesn't matter. We have a Luris online. Okay, Okay, right here, we're actually just gonna let this resolve. We're gonna sacrifice that. It comes back, so doesn't matter. We've already got a second trail. So now, we don't even have any wasted mana on the turn since we sacked one of the trails. And they are just dead. So, that was a much better showing for food. It's one of my favorite archetypes. I've actually got a third food deck that we can give a try real quick.